So I also, at this time, I'm going to wake everyone up right now because we have an interactive session. And actually, like all good ideas in NA, we pick up information when we visit various groups. I visited the H&I Learning Day in Nassau area, which was awesome. It was awesome. And they had a wheel, an interactive wheel that we modified. And I asked Fern from the Nassau area to help us with that. So this portion, I'm gonna turn it over to Fern. We've got PI questions on the wheel. Anybody can raise their hand to answer a question. You're gonna get 2 minutes to answer and comment on this question. So at this time, I'm gonna turn that over to Fern, and let's have some PI fun right now. PI and PR fun.
That's nice. Hi, everybody. My name is Fern. What an honor to be here. And so I'm going to share the screen right now. This is our wheel. If you would like to ask, if you would like to spin the wheel, please raise your virtual hand. Let me get the participants here. And it will tell you a question that you can answer, hopefully. Or who would like to get started?
These questions are questions that professionals in the public would be asking PR or PI members. So these questions would be coming from professionals. They actually come out of the PR handbook. Let me show you
how it works. First question is there a way to verify meeting attendance if I am court mandated? Would anybody like to answer that?
Okay, we have a couple of hands. I'm going to call on Laura Kay only because we haven't heard from her yet. Go ahead, Nora.
I was going, who's Laura?
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Is there a way to verify meeting attendance? Well, when we have face-to-face meetings, it's very easy. You bring a court card, a slip of paper, and you have it signed by the meeting secretary or chair, or whatever you call it in the area. In virtual meetings, I have seen, I'm going to put my video on so you can see me. Hi. In virtual meetings, many have set up a format where an attendee can email or put their contact information in chat, and they'll receive a attendance verification from the people who are facilitating the meeting. And that's my answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nora. Okay, next question.
Interesting.
Well, Vina, you want to read it? Or you want me to read?
You can read it.
What is the difference between religion and spirituality?
Okay, Diane.
Easy. I just was going over this with one of my sponsees. Religion is based on a denomination, belief, a certain belief or idealism, whereas spirituality is anything that you choose to make it bigger than you.
Yeah,
something you feel within you.
Yeah, and I think for Narcotics Anonymous, public relations and public information trusted servants, this is still a major question that we get from facilities. I know that Oasis here in New York, the Office of Addiction Services, this is still one of their major reluctant points to refer members to us. And they have like a ruling, a De Stefano ruling that actually started in AA that says that our fellowship or 12-step fellowships are religion-based when they're not. So, yeah. Okay, next question. Next question.
Are most of your members heroin addicts?
Okay, how does PI answer this? Somebody raise their hand. What is the answer we give professionals about this? Nora.
Hey, I'm an addict named Nora. We don't care what drug a person might use. We are a fellowship that deals with the disease of addiction rather than a specific substance. And we have members who have used every kind of drug you can imagine. And yes, we have heroin addicts, but we have many people who used other substances, including members who used just alcohol.
Yes, thank you for that. Good answer. These questions are all from the PR handbook and are questions that professionals ask us all the time. Okay, next question.
How does NA help parolees upon their release? How does NA help parolees upon their release?
Kelly, go ahead.
Kelly Addict, I'm stealing from Southern California. Can we do that?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Southern California has an awesome program that I wish our region would start to work on, where they have a parolee meeting virtual that the parolees are required to attend with their parole ID number with a parole agent. And it's like a H&I meeting, but it's for the parolees as they're transitioning from jail or from prison into society. They're getting like 10, I think, what was it, like 10, 20,000 participants last year during the pandemic, where we're all given an opportunity to be exposed to the message of NA before they transition to the street. So it's something I really, really wish our region would look at working on.
I'm an addict. My name is Nora, and I'd like to speak to that because I'm actually participate in that meeting every week. So it is, first of all, the parole agents are not in the meeting itself. Okay, no, they aren't. They are not admitted to the room until after the meeting is over. And when the meeting is over, the parolees may stay if they wish and voluntarily give their CDCR number to an agent. So I want to make it very clear, it is not an NA meeting with parolee agents in it. The only people who attend the meeting are the parolees and Narcotics Anonymous volunteers. So, because yeah, that's the way we do. And it is, we have, the way we run it is there's 2 speakers and then there's open sharing for the parolees.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have nothing happening here in New York for parolees. They don't like us over here.
Right. Next question.
Yes.
Does NA recognize food as an addiction? I would think NA recognizes food addiction as an addiction. If it's an addiction, it's an addiction. What do you think? What does anybody else think?
All right, let me get somebody we haven't heard from. I see Bob W has his hand up.
Hello, my name is Bob. I'm an addict. I would say, from a public relations standpoint, that Narcotics Anonymous would have no opinion on food as an addiction. I would personally steer away from that. If I was talking to somebody, I'd say Narcotics Anonymous, we're focused on recovery, addiction, and that being drugs. So I wouldn't comment on sex addiction. I wouldn't comment on food addiction. I wouldn't comment on gambling addiction. I would keep it simple and stay focused on Narcotics Anonymous. That's just my personal, take on it.
Okay, well, I'm going to take a couple of other hands on this question. Gary V.
Yes, my name is Gary B. and I'm an addict. We deal with the disease of addiction in Narcotics Anonymous. Doesn't matter what kind of drug you use or what your addiction is. It's the disease of addiction. That's how we would answer that question to a professional. Rehab members, well, I personally know of a member that attends our meetings. She's been in our meetings since I came around, and I'm coming up on 24 years. And she's only there because of her food addiction. And she attends our meetings regularly. And she's staying clean because of Narcotics Anonymous. So yes, I think we should recognize food as an addiction, but we allow her to share and participate. So yes, we recognize food as an addiction. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Gary. All right, let's go to another question.
Is there a way to verify meeting attendance? Oh, if I am court mandated, do you want to go to another question?
Yeah, let's do another one.
What is your policy on addicts taking medication?
All right, we need to see some hands on this. This is the classic question we get from professionals. They ask us this like every time we deal with them. What PR people in the house, raise your hand. All right, if you're leaving the meeting, thank you for coming, and please do our exit survey. All right, Leslie?
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Hi, recovering addict named Leslie. I definitely want to answer this question because I do currently take not only have disease of addiction, but I also deal with depression. So I'm just going to answer it as far as me. I take my medicine as prescribed, and that's just where I'm at with that. I don't double up on it. I take it as prescribed. So I guess, and then it was somebody else that said something else, because I know, well, I would also, suggest, or share how, I believe it was I can't remember exactly how they worded, but we have drug replacement. That's a little bit something different. But if I have a back issue, I'm going and my doctor prescribes me medication, I'm going to take my medication as prescribed. I don't know if I'm answering the question right or not, but that's my personal experience on it.
Well, Leslie, no, thank you so much for answering the question. Now, if a professional asks us this question, Kevin C., what would you answer?
Well, I didn't raise my hand and provide an answer for that question. I raised my hand to provide enlightenment to that question as far as regarding medical marijuana in the sense of psychotropic medication. It's very controversial with medical marijuana as well. And it seems as if Narcotics Anonymous is afraid to touch that topic. So I would just want to expand, if anybody got any experience on how do you deal with that question when it comes to medical marijuana and the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you for that question. Adding on to the question, PR people in the house, what are your answers for this to a professional? Gene F.
Hello, My name is Gene. I would say NA has no opinion on outside issues.
Okay, the standard, no opinion on outside issues. Okay, Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura and I'm an addict. Yeah, just to tag on to that, you know, NA has no opinion on outside issues, our 10th tradition, but also we have literature available for, you know, professionals to let them know where we're at with some of these issues, whether it's the medication assisted therapies or the, you know, in times of illness talks about medications, but just not to leave them hanging, but to direct them to our literature that we as, you know, PR people, we can't have an opinion, but we can show them where Narcotics Anonymous as a whole, where our literature is at and where we stand. So.
Correct. And Nora, did you want to add something?
I also want to point out that we have a new pamphlet available, IP30, which is about mental illness and recovery, which also discusses medication in it and gives Narcotics Anonymous's stance on that issue. And, you know, as far as like medical marijuana specifically is concerned, you know, that's been an issue here in California for a long time because we've had medical marijuana legalized here in California for a number of years. And, you know, when I am approached about that, my answer always is, you know, that is between the patient and their medical professional, that we have no opinion on that per se. And then I'll sometimes personally add, I believe it's a slippery slope, but that's, you know, just my opinion. That's not Narcotics Anonymous's opinion.
Thank you, Dora. No, this is like the $1 million question in PR and PI. So I'm going to take, you know, at least one or two more other answers for that. Brother James.
Addict, and I go by the name of Brother James from the Greater Philadelphia region. Thank you so much for your service and everybody else for their service. In reference to this question, I agree with the first responders as prescribed. However, our literature say we are a program of complete abstinence from all drugs, you know, but we are living in a day and time where you have to be mindful. If you have mental illness and you have to take medicine so that you be bipolar or something and you have to take medicine, we suggest that you keep on living. You know, we ask you to keep coming back no matter what. You just keep coming back to our meetings. But as far as me responding as a PR rep to a professional, you know, again, the 10th tradition, you know, we have no opinions, but we make better decisions because of the 12 steps, you know. We are, you know, that's what I say, you know. Thanks a lot for me to share.
All right, thank you, Brother James. I'm going to take one more response on this before we go to another question from Denise.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm new to the PR chairperson in my area.
Welcome.
Thank you. Question, if I go in and make a presentation and that question does come up, do I hand that professional literature on that?
We have literature. We have actually two pieces of literature. We not only have the mental illness IP, but we have specifically for professionals the MAT pamphlet. That medical assisted treatment pamphlet was developed specifically for Narcotics Anonymous public information presentations, and it gives the whole explanation about not only complete abstinence. Yeah, Laura's putting it up in her window. That's our beautiful pamphlet for professionals, but it also explains exactly you know, what our stance is about people that are prescribed from doctors, in addition to the 10th chapter of the basic text, which, you know, it's obviously it's a big chapter, but it's in our literature that specifically talks about a relationship between doctors, prescriptions, surgery, medication. So, so having those things at hand as a PR person, and it was talked about earlier, it goes well beyond just saying we have no opinion. We have experience with members detoxing from those substances, and we have experience with members in our meetings that are, you know, having those relationships with their doctors in addition to our literature. So thank you for asking. Congratulations on your new commitment. We love people taking PR commitments. Congratulations, Denise. Okay, we still have time to do more questions. Vern.
Well, we did that one already, so let's go to another one. Can NA help addicts with depression? Can NA help addicts with depression?
Okay, remember, these are questions that professionals ask us. These questions came from the NA handbook, frequently asked questions. Go ahead, Nancy.
I would simply say that many of our members tried to manage underlying mental conditions by using, and so a lot of our members come with various levels of depression and other psychiatric disorders, and they're welcome to be here. And they continue, you know, what they do about their mental illnesses between them and their doctor. And our sponsors, those available to sponsorship, are, you know, certain sponsors are very familiar in working with people with mental illness or with SMI diagnoses, or just people who go through trauma in recovery or life events where they become depressed. So that's how I would answer it.
No, that's a great answer. And also Sam put a really important point in the chat as well. You know, for people that can't see that, he wrote, I am extremely careful about using our NA language on people who are not in our program. Many don't understand. In my experience, if someone asks a question and I start with NA has no opinion on outside issues, it comes off as condescending. I might start with NA welcomes everyone, like Nancy just mentioned, and then go into specifics. So thank you for that. Okay, we do still have time for questions. You know what? I think I like the wheel part. I think, you know, it gives everybody a chance to participate.
I think we did this one. Oh no, can an NA member count clean time if prescribed medical marijuana? Can they count their clean time?
If I may, especially in a professional setting, I always defer, well, you know, that would be something that they, along with their sponsor, you know, would actually determine. And I try never to give a specific on that kind of thing, because it's an intimate thing between higher power and sponsor. And I, just like they would understand the professional relationship they have with their patients, you know, we kind of prescribe the same thing here, and then leave my personal opinion out of that particular conversation.
Yeah, that's another $1 million question that we get as professionals. Gary V, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yes, I wanted to say that we don't count nobody else's clean time. As far as Narcotics Anonymous, if you taking your medication as prescribed, then that's as prescribed by a doctor, you still count you still have your clean time. As long as you're taking this prescribed, but when you abuse it is when you lose your clean time. But if you're taking medication the way it is prescribed for you to take by a doctor, you don't lose your clean time.
Well, yeah, this is one of the major issues that we have with people in treatment, because as Sam pointed out, they use different language than we do. And one of the reasons why in New York, OASIS, the Office of Addiction Services, is reticent to involve Narcotics Anonymous is because they don't like our verbiage about clean. They don't, many treatment centers tell their people that they're clean. Now, obviously from an NA perspective, we can't have a discussion and argue, but when people go to meetings, they do argue and they yell at members and tell them they're not clean. But I think what is being clarified here is that and it goes the same for people that lie about their clean time. You don't have to come from treatment to lie about whether you're clean or not. I think the most welcoming language and what we tell the professionals is that, you know, your definition and the way you identify yourself in Narcotics Anonymous is between you and your sponsor, and that we're not going to tell you what your clean time is. That's something for you, your sponsor, your higher power, however it is that you want to identify yourself. And that's when we speak to treatment, I think that's what it is. Danelle?
Okay, I agree with what you just said about it being an individual process for someone and their sponsor to decide whether they consider themselves clean, because I was thinking that this would fit under the same category as methadone treatment, you know, MAT treatment, and how we know that people stop using those things after a period of time. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. This is an incredibly important topic and discussion. And actually in Canada, they have recreational marijuana. I guess it's been over a year that it's just legal to just straight up do marijuana in Canada right now. So, yeah, it becomes an issue for us as PR trusted servants to use the most welcoming language and so forth. Go ahead, Sam.
I was going to add, if I may, you know, one of the things like because I do live in some different worlds, because I also work in the community mental health area, and you know, the same thing that's true that we talk about as individuals, I think about as professionals. In other words, when we come in, many of us are looking for differences. And, you know, when I'm talking to a professional, I try to look at the commonalities and the similarities. They're trying to help somebody the same thing. So they're trying to find those differences. So I believe that part of my job is when I'm talking to them is really just to get the person in the door and reduce those, you know, some of those hot button issues that someone could argue about, those specifics, because ultimately that would be something between them and you know, their sponsor or whatever. And, you know, to get into those conversations, sometimes I think basically creates a gulf between us and professionals, I've learned. Does that kind of make sense?
No, that's 100% spot on. You know, and I think the other part of the 10 tradition is not creating an adversarial relationship and arguing,
right.
You know, arguing the house down with professionals about our definition of clean, right? When really we're trying to get them to
Right.
refer people to us, and we don't have to get stuck on using terminology with them outside of an NA recovery meeting, right? Like we use other terminology, adjunct to treatment, NA resource in the community. And actually it's part of our creative action, you know, for those people that like the Another Look pamphlet, it's part of our creative action to use, you know, terms that treatment don't find adversarial, but are not, that's not, you know, compromising our message. You know, we can use other language that makes them know that, you know, we both want the same thing. So, you know, we still have 6 minutes before the next segment. The next segment is also going to be super exciting. So go ahead, Fern. Oh, Fern, you're muted.
sorry, if I'm in law enforcement, can I bring my weapon into a meeting? If I'm in law enforcement, can I bring my weapon into a meeting?
Go ahead, Jose.
Jose Addict. One of the things that we went over many years ago when we would go over the frequently asked questions was that law enforcement is law enforcement for 24 hours a day. And back then, the way that that was ultimately answered was we cannot tell anybody from law enforcement to put their weapons in a vehicle, you know, or to how do you say? You know, we would say hang your hat up at the door, but you can't prohibit law enforcement from carrying their weapons. That was basically the answer.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for that. And I saw there was a comment in the chat to that regard. Nancy from Arizona.
When we present, they ask us if they would be welcome to come observe an NA meeting. I do usually recommend that they come out of uniform, you know, when they're off duty, but they carry 24/7. So we do not talk about weapons. We understand if they're at a meeting, they usually have a weapon on them, in uniform or out.
Okay. Any other comments about that question? Okay, going to the, yeah, I see some people's faces are like a little puzzled. I mean, I know when it comes to tradition 8, when we tell professionals that they need to check, Betty Crocker needs to check her spoon at the door, right? On some level, if you're coming to a meeting as a member, I think if you're coming as a member, we tell people to leave their drugs at home, no weapons, no paraphernalia. I mean, many meetings have that still in their formats. If you're coming to a meeting as a professional, the question about being under surveillance is a whole other wrinkle to that. And I see Jim L has his hand up to perhaps weigh into that as well.
Hey everybody, I'm Jim. I'm an addict. That has been asked multiple times. Keep it simple. You know, as it was already said, law enforcement is law enforcement 24/7, and they have, you know, policies, procedures, guidelines, regulations that they are required to follow. It's as simple as that. We cannot expect a law enforcement individual to come to our meetings and not carry their shield and their weapon. It is as simple as that. They are expected to have it on them 24/7. You know, the statement about, you know, asking them to come out of uniform is a nice suggestion, and it does help to provide a sense of welcomeness to those that are insecure and don't want to see a uniform in the meeting. You know, but I saw in the chat, isn't it up to the group conscience? You know, group conscience isn't always right. So we need to be very careful when we ask someone to violate a law because we don't believe that they should come to our meeting carrying their shield or weapon. I would greatly hope they don't come carrying their shield hanging around their neck like it's an episode of some police show with their weapon on their side belt. You know, they know better. We have to give them an understanding and the respect that we're being asked in return. You know, so we can't use NA culture and language to ask someone to do something that is not right. And we're trying to actually, you know, create a more positive image in NA. And as you said, you know, asking someone to deny their position in the community is adversarial right off the start.
Thank you, Jim. All right, it's 2 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock at this time, and we want to keep, you know, things going on time. I want to just say thank you so much to all the members that participated in this interactive portion to kind of get us like, you know, moving in a